It started in a Miami parking lot where blood stained the pavement under flashing lights. Nobody thought a small Haitian crew would rise and build a name feared across states. These sets began as young immigrants protecting each other from bigger crews and harsh streets. But survival turned into something heavier, and what began as loyalty became crime, money, and violence. The word Zoe carried pride, but also carried danger. This ain't just about gangs, it's about how whole communities got caught between pride, poverty, and power. And it all started with a new wave of Haitians landing in America. When Haitians came heavy to the United States in the late 1970s and early 1980s, most were running from Jean-Claude Duvalier's collapsing regime and the chaos that followed. Families piled onto boats headed for Florida, and by the time they reached Miami, many were broke, tired, and desperate to build something new. But America didn't welcome them with open arms because Haitians faced poverty, racism, and very little chance to climb socially or economically. In Miami's Liberty City and Little Haiti, the youth got hit from two sides, catching pressure from African-American gangs already in control and Latino gangs expanding their presence. Some Haitian kids got jumped walking home from school, others got pressed on street corners for wearing the wrong clothes or accents. In neighborhoods where your background could decide whether you survived, Haitians became targets because they were outsiders who didn't yet have established numbers. By the mid-'80s, cliques of Haitian teenagers started forming, not as organized gangs, but as groups watching each other's backs against hostile rivals. Some of them began calling themselves Zoes, taken from the Haitian Creole word for bone, meaning unbreakable, even after death. It was more than a nickname, it was a sign of pride when everybody else mocked their accent and culture. At first, being a Zoe wasn't about hustling drugs, it was about identity and survival. But poverty and the streets have a way of pushing kids deeper. With jobs scarce and families struggling, hustling became the only route many saw. By 1997, Metro-Dade police estimated at least 6 Haitian gangs with around 600 members across Miami. That shift from cliques to real sets was fueled by drugs, because the mid-'80s crack era had already transformed every block in Miami into contested territory. Once Haitian cliques realized protection could also mean profit, things changed fast. The U.S. deportation policy added fuel too, because Haitian youth arrested for crimes often got deported back to Port-au-Prince, where they fell straight into violent gangs. Some of them later returned or maintained connections with the U.S., creating pipelines of guns, money, and drugs moving between Haiti and American cities. That cycle of marginalization, deportation, and re-entry made Haitian gangs both local and international. By the 1990s, the stage was set for one crew to step forward and dominate the story: Zoe Pound. Zoe Pound came out of Little Haiti in Miami during the late 1980s, when Haitian immigrants were still fighting for respect. According to oral accounts, the crew started with young Haitians sticking together after constant harassment and attacks from larger African-American and Cuban gangs. By the early 1990s, the name Zoe Pound already carried weight in Miami streets because it meant Haitian kids weren't running anymore. They had turned protection into power. The gang's name was simple but effective: Zoe for Haitian pride, and Pound meaning strength and unity. At first, they were just defending themselves in Little Haiti, but before long, robbery and drug hustles made the crew notorious. By 1996, the Miami Herald was reporting a rise in Haitian gang violence, and although names weren't always given, law enforcement pointed to Zoe Pound being in the center. The early days were messy, but Zoe Pound was becoming an organized brand. When the drug trade exploded, Zoe Pound members jumped deep into cocaine and marijuana distribution. They didn't just hustle small packs, they moved weight across states. Law enforcement later proved that Zoe Pound wasn't just a Miami gang, because by 2010 they were active in Florida, Connecticut, Georgia, Indiana, Massachusetts, New Jersey, New York, and even the Carolinas. An FBI indictment in Evansville, Indiana, showed how Zoe Pound members Gene Sterling, Sledge Sade, and Francoeur Pierre ran cocaine distribution across the Midwest. The gang financed itself through drugs and robberies, but intimidation was also part of their control. Miami rumors spread about voodoo rituals, people saying Zoes used ceremonies for protection or revenge. Whether true or not, it added to their fear factor in the community. By the early 2000s, Zoe Pound had alliances with the Jamaican Shower Posse and the Latin Kings, making them part of a bigger underworld network. These alliances gave them more access to drugs and more territory. In 2009, federal authorities hit Zoe Pound with a heavy RICO case, charging 19 members with racketeering, drug trafficking, and murder. Many of them received long prison sentences, but that didn't end the story. Instead, the gang splintered into smaller neighborhood sets like the 54th Street Zoes, the 36th Street Zoes, and the 53rd Terrace Zoes. The brand survived even after big names were locked up because new recruits kept pushing the name forward. Zoe Pound also broke into culture because rappers and Haitian artists started shouting out Zoe life in songs and videos. Wyclef Jean referenced them, and Miami rappers like Jackie O used the name too. By the mid-2000s, kids wore t-shirts with Zoe Pound printed across the chest, even if they weren't gang members. To some, it was about pride in being Haitian, but for others, it was about being linked to a dangerous reputation. Inside the gang, tension grew between the older generation and the younger members. The OGs wanted order and discipline, but the younger crowd wanted fast money and recognition, even if it meant reckless shootings. That rift made Zoe Pound unstable at times, but it also kept them unpredictable, which made law enforcement treat them as a serious threat. In 2011, the National Gang Threat Assessment described Zoe Pound as violent, well-organized, and expanding across states. Even after big federal busts, Zoe Pound's story didn't fade because they had already become the most iconic Haitian gang in America. They began as a clique for survival, then turned into a feared name across Miami and beyond. Their legacy was bigger than crime because Zoe Pound represented how Haitian youth transformed cultural pride into a symbol that carried both strength and destruction. For Miami's Little Haiti, Zoe Pound was more than just another crew. It was the name that made Haitians stop hiding. After Zoe Pound split apart in Miami, one of the most violent offshoots that appeared was the Zoe Mafia Family, better known as ZMF. The story goes that some members felt they deserved more profit and recognition than they were getting inside Zoe Pound, so they decided to form their own set. Unlike the more loose structure of Zoe Pound, ZMF tried to run like a real organization with a Don at the top and generals handling territory across Miami-Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach. That structure made them disciplined in ways Zoe Pound had struggled to maintain, and it gave ZMF a reputation for being ruthless. By the late 2010s, ZMF was already making noise with local law enforcement because they weren't just hustling weed or small coke deals, they were knee-deep in trafficking fentanyl, cocaine, and methamphetamine. This came to a head in May 2025 when the Department of Justice announced a major bust involving ZMF, the Third World Gang, and some blood sex. 18 people were convicted on charges that included fentanyl trafficking, cocaine distribution, and illegal possession of firearms. Prosecutors described the Zoe Mafia family as a violent Haitian street gang that kept control through shootings, intimidation, and extortion. During that case, investigators pulled 23 guns, large amounts of fentanyl and meth, and bundles of cash from different stash spots across South Florida. Neighborhood residents in North Miami and Hollywood told reporters that ZMF members often extorted Haitian-owned businesses, charging so-called protection money. Shop owners who didn't pay allegedly faced threats or vandalism. Some rumors even suggested ZMF leaders had ties to Haitian politicians, with part of the profits getting wired back to Port-au-Prince. Whether those political connections were real or not, the gossip kept people scared and gave ZMF more mystique. Former members speaking anonymously on underground blogs said that recruits were forced to commit violent acts to prove loyalty, and once you were in, leaving was almost impossible. The gang kept its ranks through fear, money, and an image that fed off the Zoe name. Even after the 2025 convictions, ZMF didn't fully disappear. Law enforcement managed to take out some heavy hitters, but smaller cells survived by going underground. Community leaders worried that younger kids saw the Zoe Mafia family as a badge of Haitian pride, without realizing how destructive the lifestyle was. The name ZMF still rings in South Florida streets, carrying the weight of a gang that started from a split, but became just as feared as the original Zoes. While ZMF was building its name in Florida, up north in New Jersey, a different Haitian crew was making waves under the name Haitian Mafia. This set popped up in the late 1990s, just as crack and cocaine were still dominating the street economy. Reports from the National Drug Intelligence Center around 2001 listed the Haitian Mafia alongside the Bloods, Crips, and Cash Money Boys as key distributors of powder cocaine in Warren County. They used towns like Phillipsburg in New Jersey and Easton in Pennsylvania as their main distribution hubs, pushing weight that came in from Miami or New York. The Haitian Mafia didn't look like one single gang, but more like a network of Haitian American crews working block by block. They kept stash houses, used younger teenagers as lookouts, and leaned on dual citizenship to move between Haiti and the US easily. That movement gave them flexibility with supply chains and made deportation complicated, since many members held US passports as well. Law enforcement described them as disciplined and organized, though not as openly flamboyant as some other gangs. Even with their lower profile, Haitian Mafia members gained a reputation for violence during turf wars with Latin Kings and Bloods. In 2002, a string of unsolved murders in Trenton and Elizabeth was rumored to be Haitian Mafia retaliation, though arrests were rare. By 2004, a statewide task force claimed to have weakened the group, but by 2007, NDIC assessments suggested the Haitian Mafia was still active in northern New Jersey suburbs. Inside the Haitian community, the reputation was complicated. Some locals saw them as ruthless drug dealers who poisoned neighborhoods, while others whispered that Haitian Mafia leaders quietly donated money to churches, charities, and even soccer teams. This gave them a Robin Hood image among some immigrants, though most community leaders rejected that view. Newark and Orange residents said gang members could be seen running barbershops or small businesses, sometimes using them as fronts for laundering money. That mix of criminal economy and everyday visibility kept the Haitian Mafia alive into the 2000s and 2010s, even as law enforcement tried to shut them down. By the early 2010s, the Haitian Mafia wasn't making national headlines like Zoe Pound, but within New Jersey, their presence was felt. They had shown how Haitian crews could adapt outside Miami, creating their own networks in the Northeast, with just enough power to hold territory and enough mystery to remain a shadow in the state's drug underworld. In the late 1990s, a crew of Haitian teenagers in Atlantic City started calling themselves the Haitian Boys, and what began as a protective clique eventually turned into one of the most feared Haitian gangs on the East Coast. They grew up surrounded by tension because Atlantic City was already flooded with crack and heroin markets, and bigger crews like the Bloods and Crips were competing for territory. Haitian kids didn't have numbers like that, so banding together gave them both identity and security. By the early 2000s, the Haitian Boys Posse, often shortened to HBP, had shifted from just being a local clique into an organized gang with structure. Members spoke of a leadership system that mirrored larger American gangs, with a prezi at the top, generals running specific neighborhoods, and soldiers working the corners. Lookouts watched for police, while mid-level members handled drug distribution and robberies. Speaking Haitian Creole was reportedly mandatory in their meetings because it reinforced cultural pride and also separated them from rival crews. Police and federal agencies recognized them as serious players. In the FBI's 2011 National Gang Threat Assessment, the Haitian Boys Posse was specifically named as a violent gang in New Jersey, right alongside national-level groups like MS-13. That document listed them as being involved in shootings, drug trafficking, robberies, and weapons smuggling. A Wired magazine article the same year repeated those findings, pointing out that Haitian Boys Posse had become notorious for gun running and homicides in Atlantic City and Irvington. Street stories told by locals described ritual initiations where new recruits were jumped in through group beatings and sometimes had to commit robberies to earn their place. Atlantic City police reports connected HBP to multiple robberies of bodegas and even linked them to fatal shootings, though official convictions were less common. Haitian-owned restaurants in Atlantic City's north side were allegedly forced to pay protection money to keep their businesses safe from vandalism or break-ins, which created fear inside the Haitian community. New Jersey State Police eventually launched a Haitian gang task force during the mid-2000s, targeting HBP specifically. Raids led to arrests and deportations, with several members sent back to Haiti after serving prison sentences. Deportation didn't necessarily end the threat, though, because deportees were vulnerable to recruitment into armed gangs in Port-au-Prince, and those ties sometimes circled back to the U.S. Haitian community. Rumors spread in the 2010s that HBP had moved into Philadelphia's Haitian neighborhoods, though official police confirmation never surfaced. Even so, the gang's reputation was enough to keep people silent because talking about HBP carried consequences. Inside Haitian neighborhoods, they were seen as a force that created both fear and a twisted sense of respect because some admired their toughness while others simply wanted them gone. The Haitian Boys Posse remains one of the most infamous Haitian American gangs that came out of New Jersey. Not far from New Jersey, in Connecticut, another Haitian gang gained notoriety for crimes that looked more like professional heists than street hustles. In Stamford and Bridgeport, Haitian immigrants who were struggling with low-wage jobs came together during the 1990s to form what became known as the Kuster Street Gang, sometimes called the Haitian Posse. Their name came from Custer Street in Stamford, which had a sizable Haitian community, and their reputation grew from violent robberies that shook the region. Unlike other Haitian sets focused mainly on drug corners, the Custer Street Gang specialized in organized robberies and gun trafficking. Police and intelligence reports tied them to multiple armored car robberies in Stamford and Bridgeport during the early 2000s, where crews sometimes dressed in stolen police uniforms to fool guards. These weren't small stick-ups. They were detailed jobs that looked planned by people with tactical experience. Law enforcement suspected that some founding members of the Custer Street Gang were former Haitian military or paramilitary soldiers who fled after Jean-Claude Duvalier fell. That background meant they were familiar with firearms and small unit tactics, which explained how robberies were executed with precision. Local community gossip claimed that some leaders fronted as legitimate businessmen operating trucking or import companies that masked their smuggling operations. A 2009 situational intelligence report mentioned in the National Gang Threat Assessment revealed that the Custer Street Gang had connections with gun runners in Miami. Firearms smuggled north on I-95 reportedly ended up in Connecticut, while some were even shipped back to Haiti to fuel violence in Port-au-Prince. Interviews with Haitian activists in Stamford confirmed that people were hesitant to even mention the gang publicly because the threat of retaliation was real. Federal authorities eventually arrested several members connected to a multi-state robbery ring in 2010, but the case files were sealed, leaving most details hidden. Rumors continued that others escaped charges and kept smaller crews alive in Connecticut, moving quietly while their older reputation still cast a shadow. To this day, the Custer Street Gang carries a legacy of fear in Fairfield County, remembered not just as Haitian hustlers, but as some of the most organized robbers that area had ever seen. The Haitian Outlaws sit in a strange space within the story of Haitian gangs because their name has been whispered in Newark and Brooklyn for decades, yet very little concrete information has ever surfaced publicly. Community talk paints them as a violent but disciplined crew, and the only widely confirmed fact was tied to a U.S. Marshal's Most Wanted case in 2004. That year, Luxon Coriolan, a Haitian national with HOL tattooed across his arms, was placed on the most wanted list for murder. He was described as armed and dangerous, representing a gang that the authorities referred to as the Haitian Outlaws. Coriolan eventually got caught and deported to Haiti, though details about his prosecution or sentence never came out clearly. His case was enough to make HOL tattoos known as the mark of a feared but elusive set. Rumors tied the Outlaws to retaliatory shootings in Paterson, New Jersey, especially during the early 2000s when tensions between Dominican and Haitian crews boiled over. Locals spoke of sudden violence and quick disappearances, saying the Outlaws would strike hard and vanish before police could react. Yet, official reports rarely mentioned them, and police rarely confirmed cases beyond Coriolan's capture. The Outlaws built their legend around secrecy and fear. They weren't like Zoe Pound making headlines or HBP getting listed in gang assessments. Instead, their mystery created their reputation because people feared what they didn't fully understand. The myth became the power, and even now, the Haitian Outlaws remain one of the most shadowy Haitian American gangs. While the Outlaws thrived on mystery, the Haitian Mafia Crips showed a very different identity, one that fused Haitian pride with one of America's biggest gang brands. The set came up in Flatbush, Brooklyn during the 1990s, when large Haitian communities were settling into neighborhoods already dominated by Crip and blood culture. Young Haitians wanted recognition and strength, so aligning with the Crips gave them protection and status. They blended the blue Crip colors with the Haitian flag colors, creating a hybrid identity that stood out in Flatbush. By the early 2000s, Haitian Mafia Crips were already in constant turf conflicts with blood sets like G-Shine and Sex Money Murder, and the beef spilled into robberies and stabbings across Brooklyn. Court records later confirmed their existence. In a 2017 decision from DeBrosse v. City of New York, detectives testified that Peter DeLeus identified himself as a member of the Haitian Mafia Crips during a 2009 shooting investigation. The case showed not just their presence, but also how internal rivalries and disputes between members could spark violence. Officer Paul Blanc from the 70th Precinct was documented as knowledgeable about Haitian Mafia Crips, which proved the NYPD had them on radar. Street-level talk connected the gang to robberies around Kings Plaza Mall and a fatal stabbing in 2023, though those remain allegations without full confirmation. Their reputation grew regardless, because being both Haitian and Crip meant they carried a double weight in Brooklyn's gang landscape. Haitian youth could claim their culture while also repping the Crip alliance, which made them more dangerous in the eyes of rivals. The Haitian Mafia Crips may not have been as nationally recognized as Zoe Pound, but within Brooklyn's Haitian community, their presence was undeniable. They became one of the most feared Haitian American gangs in New York, balancing both heritage and the Crip brand in a way that set them apart from other Haitian sets. In Boston, Haitian crews carried their own reputation through a gang that became known as HBlock. Their story stretched back to the 1980s, when a group called the Humboldt Raiders began forming around Humboldt Avenue in Dorchester. That crew had Haitian members from the start, and by the 2000s, the name HBlock replaced the old Humboldt Raiders identity. HBlock quickly became recognized as one of Boston's most feared citywide gangs. They had a heavy Haitian membership drawn from Dorchester, an area that saw a large Haitian community settle during the late 20th century. Conflict soon emerged with another local crew called the Heath Street Gang, and these fights were about control of crack and heroin markets across Mission Hill. The gang's violence was not just rumor. In 2010, a 14-year-old named Jaiwan Martin was shot dead in a Boston park, and prosecutors later tied the killing to HBlock associates. More than a decade later, in 2025, Jerry Gray, identified as an HBlock member, pleaded guilty to drug distribution and firearm possession in a federal case. Boston's mayor at the time, Michelle Wu, referenced HBlock during congressional testimony, using the conviction as an example of the city's fight against organized gangs. Residents of Dorchester spoke of HBlock's strict code of silence, where talking to police was considered betrayal. People described a code that demanded loyalty and retaliation, and it left the Haitian community caught between fear and frustration. Older Haitian immigrants remembered the Humboldt Raiders as a self-defense group from back in the day, but younger members embraced the violent reputation that came with the HBlock name. By the 2010s, HBlock had secured its place as Boston's most feared Haitian crew. The reach of Zoe Pound didn't stop in Miami or the East Coast, because by 2010, federal indictments showed how far the name had traveled into the Midwest. In Chicago, prosecutors charged 22 suspected Zoe Pound members with conspiracy to traffic both powder cocaine and crack. Those indictments came from sealed federal files, but media reports at the time confirmed the charges and detailed how guns, drugs, and cash were seized in the operation. Chicago's Haitian community was smaller compared to Miami, but the city's drug markets were already dominated by major players like the Gangster Disciples and Vice Lords. Zoe Pound members reportedly partnered with those local crews to carve out a piece of the cocaine trade. Witnesses described Zoe members calling themselves Zoe Third Base or Zoe Third World, names that carried meaning for their Chicago identity. They traveled frequently between Miami and Chicago, keeping the pipeline for supply chains intact. Even smaller cities weren't untouched. Evansville, Indiana, became a surprise hub when federal agents indicted Zoe Pound members Gene Sterling, Sledge Sade, and Francoeur Pierre. The FBI's press release described them as members of Zoe Pound responsible for a cocaine distribution conspiracy stretching across Indiana and into neighboring states. Evansville might not have a large Haitian community, but its location along highways connecting Chicago and the South made it an ideal spot. Rumors circulated in later years that Zoe Pound had active sets in Cleveland, Cincinnati, and even Atlanta, sometimes using names like Zoe Family or Zoe Bloods. Law enforcement never fully confirmed those claims, but the allegations spread within Haitian communities and local gossip. Whether true or not, the expansion stories showed how the Zoe name had become more than just a Miami thing. It became a symbol that Haitians from different states could rally under, whether in real organized sets or looser street cliques. By the 2010s, Zoe Pound had proven that its influence wasn't stuck in one city. Through Chicago indictments and Evansville conspiracies, they showed how Haitian gangs could adapt to new markets, partner with existing crews, and stretch their reach across the Midwest. Even if federal pressure broke up some members, the legend of Zoe expansion stayed alive in street conversations from Miami to Indiana. Deportation policies in the United States shaped the evolution of Haitian gangs more than many people realize, because Haitian youth convicted of crimes were often sent back to Port-au-Prince, where they landed straight into Haiti's armed gangs. Once inside those violent networks, some kept ties with friends in America, which created a pipeline of money, weapons, and influence moving between Haiti and U.S. cities. That cycle meant the problem was never only local, because the deported came back connected, harder, and more dangerous. Inside Haitian communities in Miami, Newark, Boston, and Brooklyn, the impact went beyond crime, because regular families carried the stigma of being associated with gang names like Zoe Pound or HBP. Haitian shop owners complained about extortion, churches worried about losing young people, and community leaders begged for programs that could steer kids away from the streets. At the same time, law enforcement kept stacking arrests and deportations, but people on the ground argued that poverty, racism, and invisibility were the roots that made gangs possible. For some, the gangs became symbols of Haitian pride twisted by violence, while for others, they were just a reminder of everything that held their neighborhoods down. The truth sat in between, because Haitian gangs in the U.S. were built from survival, but ended up shaping fear, culture, and identity. Whether in Little Haiti, Dorchester, or Flatbush, the name Zoe or HBlock still carried meaning, reminding everyone that these stories weren't just about crime, but about how communities struggled against the weight of history and circumstance.